Hey, Small Biz Reorg, here's something different. And if you find this one helpful, subscribe, ring the bell. But I just bought an electric car. That's right, I'm 60 years old, and I just bought an electric car. And you're wondering, why would I do that? Well, quite frankly, I am tired of paying for premium fuel. In New York, we're over $4.60 a gallon. It's a bit ridiculous. More than $1 a gallon over the price of regular. I'm over here at Best Buy because I got to pick up an EV level 2 charger for my house. Love the car. I'll tell you more about which car it is. I test drove a lot of them. I've rented a lot of them. Some of them have a really, really rough ride. The one I finally picked has a much softer ride. I was surprised by my own decision. Surprisingly, I got one that has a lot less range than I thought I would. And we'll talk about how range is calculated. And you're going to be surprised at this too. There's no standards for how car companies calculate range on electric vehicles. So be careful when you read those numbers. Hi, welcome to something very different for Small Biz Reorg. As you can probably tell by the title, I went out and bought an EV. So what did I do? Why did I do it? And what happened? Well, we're going to go through it. And if you're wondering if it went according to plan, no, it didn't. There are lots of pitfalls, and I probably fell into most of them. And hopefully you won't hit the same ones I did by watching this video. Because boy, if you get into the EVs, you're going to find out there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I think I did a lot of things right too. So I'm going to talk to you about the risks. I'm going to talk to you about the financial risks. I'm going to talk to you about the risks of bringing them home. I'm going to talk to you about the government programs where you can save money. Your local utility wants to give you money. But if you don't do it just right, you won't get those incentives. And yes, you're going to guess that I got shut out of some of them. How? Stay tuned. I'm going to take you through what it takes to get a level 2 charger installed and up and running. You guessed it. It's not as easy as plugging it in. You think that dryer plug you have is sitting there waiting for your electric vehicle to show up at your house? Well, maybe it is. It wasn't for me. We'll talk about the different charging standards. I did a little bit of that and what's coming in the future. And it's coming in the very near future for a lot of the auto companies, but not for all of them. And it's a really exciting time. Hopefully my house is future-proofed. I'm going to walk you through a lot of this and hopefully help you avoid some of the mistakes I made. So let's get started. What are the risks and what's out there? I decided to take this plunge because I went out and rented a lot of EVs when I was out there. And a lot of what I was able to get was the Ioniq. I was able to get my hands on the Tesla. That was probably the easiest one to get. And I did like the Tesla a lot. And I thought it's a great vehicle. I just thought the ride on it was very, very hard. And I've had back problems and I've had surgery for back problems. And I just couldn't see myself living with the Tesla. I think the supercharger network is the best there is. Don't get me wrong. It is the easiest to find because the Tesla has in it maps that tell you exactly where to go. It will map out your route. It is second to none for that. On the other hand, I also felt every bump in the road. And for me, that became the factor that just drove me away from the Tesla. I like the other vehicles, but to be perfectly honest, I'm a Lexus owner. I test drove the Lexus, and knowing Lexus service, knowing what they stand for, knowing that this is a new technology and I'm not sure what problems I'm going to have, and having their service behind it, I was more comfortable staying with Lexus and with the Toyota company behind the product and moving into that vehicle. I've had it now for all of 2 days, and I will tell you it's a lot of fun to drive. It does do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and I haven't had a car that's been fast since, well, probably since I was 25. So it's a lot of fun having a fast car again, and it doesn't look like a fast car. What are the downsides? Well, my house is 100 years old. Our electrical system had been upgraded, but it had been upgraded 30 years ago. And since that time, we had put central air conditioning in the house. And we had pretty much maxed out the panel. And when the electrician came in, he looked at it and told us the panel could no longer handle any more draw. So not only did we need to install a level 2 charger, we needed to replace the panel in the house. They took out the old electrical panel and spent the entire day replacing the electrical panel, rewiring it, putting a new panel in, new service, and then putting in the level 2 charger. This is not what I expected. Would I do it again? Yes. We probably should have upgraded the panel before, so it was probably due. The future is here. We could now charge 2 EVs if we want. Other issues. You may find your utility company is willing to give you a discount for charging during off hours. And you're going to look at that program and go, this is wonderful. Then you're going to look up the vehicle you're buying. It's going to give you by make and model. It may give you by year. It may give you by trim. Look at that very, very carefully. What I found is you have to look at the year too, because my year isn't yet qualified. And the charger I have isn't one of the chargers they list. Therefore, we're Consolidated Edison, Con Ed. They can't put my car into that program. Once again, I can't get in yet. Would I not get the vehicle because of that? No, I'd still get the vehicle. But I expect it to be in the program. I'm not in it yet. They've put me on their waiting list. Con Ed, you might want to move a little quicker on this stuff. You're supposed to be incentivizing us to get EVs. 2024 Lexus RZ Premium. Can we get it in your program, please? This is a shout out to you. So that's one where if we're supposed to be getting incentivized, utility companies could move a little quicker. I also have my Tesla charger. I don't see why that can't be included. But there you go. It's not. They only include 3 chargers. Where did I go right? The way I purchased this vehicle is through a lease. And I say purchase. I structured it so that there were a lot of incentives on the lease program. Huge incentives. My payments are low monthly and the buyout is low. The charging port on this car is a J1772. I mentioned that earlier. The J1772 is being replaced by the NACS. Lexus has said there will be an adapter available for this vehicle. I don't know if I want to stay with this vehicle because in 3 years, I don't know what's going to happen. There's the range wars. You probably all heard about it. This car's rated for 220 miles. Let me stop there. There's no national standard on range. You got it. Toyota, Lexus sets their range standards one way, very conservatively. From what I can tell, it's incredibly conservative because I just drove to my office, which is roughly 9 miles from my house. According to the car, I used 2 miles worth of energy with the air conditioning running. In a Tesla, running 3 miles, I go through 11 miles worth of range. The vehicles, for my style of driving, use a totally different amount of miles when I drive them. I don't know why. They just seem to calculate differently. All I can tell you is they seem to have different algorithms. The Hyundai is somewhere in between the two. They just seem to be set differently. Now, you can also go into them and set your driving styles different to make them more or less aggressive. I leave them all set at normal. When you're doing this and when you're evaluating them, I would recommend you get out and drive as many of these vehicles as you can and drive them for an extended period of time. You can't do this with a dealer test drive. It just doesn't work. You need to get out and really drive them for ideally several days and see what you get out of them. And maybe my style of driving just fits better with one car than the other. They all drive differently and you're going to get different results on each of them. That being said, I seem to be getting more miles out of this vehicle than I did out of the Tesla, or at least more out of the predicted mileage. The Tesla definitely gets more miles out of its rated battery life. The long range Model Y is rated for 310 miles. This car is rated for nowhere near that. I haven't taken it on a long trip. We're going to take it for about a 110 mile trip. That should be a pretty good test. We're going to take it out on I-95 in Connecticut. I can almost guarantee we'll be stuck in traffic for at least part of that, so it'll be a mixed highway stop-and-go trip. So it should be a really good test of how this car performs and what the battery life is. It's supposed to be warm, so the air conditioning will be running. Anyway, my theory was do it with a lease. If I don't like it in 3 years, I can give it back to the dealer. If I like it, the buyout is low enough, I can buy it and keep it. That hedges my bet. I'm supposed to have an adapter that allows me to use the Tesla supercharger network. That also hedges my bet. I have the level 2 charger at home. I can use that. With that adapter, I'm going to be on the NACS standard. That hedges my bet. I was looking as to how do I minimize risks. So what are the risks? Financial one, structuring it through the lease, hedge that bet. The adapter coming out for the NACS standard hedges the bet on the changeover to the standard. with Lexus having said they're going to adopt it and have an adapter available. So this is really where I saw it going on those risks. Talking about the switch over to NECS, if you're looking at any EV, I would strongly suggest you look at the list, and we have this up on the screen now, of the vehicles that have said they're adopting the NACS standard. It is becoming the standard, or at least that's announced to be the standard, and it seems to be where the market's moving. If you are looking at a vehicle that isn't moving to that standard, or you're looking at a vehicle on the used market and the automaker hasn't said they'll have an adapter for it, I would strongly suggest you think twice about buying that vehicle, because you're going to have a hard time getting a charger that works with it and getting high-speed charging, and you want to be able to get to those DC chargers. So think long and hard about buying that vehicle. You want manufacturer support to be able to get future charging for that. Here's the big piece for small biz reorg. Where is this taking businesses, including small businesses? If you're in the auto repair business, and it comes down to what part of the business are you in? If you're selling tires, this is probably good news for you. These EVs have a lot of torque, and they have regenerative braking. They're going to go through tires, and they need tire rotation. You're in great shape. If you're a quick change oil shop, you probably have a problem. They don't need oil changes. My car doesn't need any service for 40,000 miles. This changes the auto industry in a manner that hasn't occurred since Henry Ford opened his first plant and started mass production of automobiles. It's a major shift. So, if you're in an industry that deals with automobiles, you need to look at what this means. Obviously, if you have gas stations, you need to start thinking now about what does this mean to you. Your traffic's going to be down. People are not going to be fueling up. Most EVs will be charged at home or at high-speed chargers. They're not going to be pulling into the traditional gas station. It's going to be a change. You want to start thinking about that now. What does it mean? How are you going to adapt to this? Those are the insights that I see, and they seem to be coming fast. We can talk about how quick it's going to happen, but if you look at the legislation that's already been passed in major states, if you look at what's happening in Europe and Asia, if you look at the number of EVs being sold in China, this wave is coming. It will occur. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. So I will tell you that I think the car is a lot of fun to drive, and I would suggest going out, test driving one, see how much you like it. Embrace the future.